I mean, we all know Dimebag solos were amazing in their own right, but when they translate within Pantera's music, what Rex did under them was truly the secret sauce that made them shine the way they did. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Floods is from Pantera's 8th studio album, The Great Southern Trendkill, released in 1996, and I know an episode featuring Rex Brown is long overdue here on the channel. I get a lot of requests for those earlier 90s songs. I'm already really familiar with them all. I'm a big fan of this band, so I knew if I picked a Pantera track one day, it had to be from those last two Pantera albums that I've never given a proper listen to. I'm very unfamiliar with them. I remember in high school getting into this band and falling in love with Cowboys and Vulgar. It was just heavy enough, and then I eventually skimmed through Trendkill one day, and that opening scream on the very first track, I just thought, this isn't for me. It's a little too heavy, especially when Phil's vocals got much more harsh in the later years. All my friends agreed, and I just kind of wrote it off. And it's funny now because I'm really into harsh vocals and super heavy music, so it's about time I circle back and really give them a chance. I'm glad I saw this on the band's Wikipedia page for the album. Good God, that would have derailed me quite a bit, so I've pitched down my Helix to 425. Here we go with Pantera's Floods. So eerie. Up here in B minor. Yeah, so there was a point in my life, I know I've heard this. It doesn't ring a bell, but again, I know I skimmed through every song and tried to really give this a chance, and I remember the undertones on this album feeling darker, because I had fallen in love with things like Cowboys from Hell. It was bluesy, it was a bit more classic rock-ish. I always called Pantera like a heavier classic rock when I first got into them, because I was coming out of Floyd and Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses, so the bluesy flair to that album, you know, got me into the band, and this was just dark, and I've read how the interpersonal tensions within the band really came out in the music on these last two albums, and it just was a bit depressing, sad, and dark. I know enough about the band's history to kind of know that, so I've just never gone back, but this has an eerie, emotive thing happening here. The vocal setup is really kind of like a subconscious talking with yourself in a way, but this B minor intro is a really tense chord. Going down a half step on the fifth. So it gets a little tritone-ish. We've talked a lot about tritones, but they're just hovering between that half step dissonance on the top note, and it gives it that eerie sound. And Rex is just outlining the bottom note in Dime's guitar chord, just kind of right here, up in the mid-range, not on the low octave. Real basic, and now when the drums kick in, he goes low, and he starts building the bass line. And something I didn't know about Rex for a really long time was that he was a jazz bassist. He had a scholarship to the University of North Texas. That's a pretty prestigious jazz school with a pretty prestigious jazz program. I believe he played tuba. That little documentary that went up about him, I think Gibson put it out on YouTube, was a great watch. You all should go watch that. But going into and appreciating his bass lines is a whole different thing for me now, knowing he has that background, and I never knew that. So I'm going to be thinking about that as the song goes on. Let's keep it rolling. Now he's down octave. And the placement of that kick drum from Vinny is really bizarre. He changed it up. It's just on a weird count from how he was outlining it earlier. I love that. Wow. The shimmeriness on that guitar is so eerie. Let's go back for a second. I love how much they're utilizing dynamics here, and they're saving that upbeat, bright major chord just for those big, impactful moments when Phil actually comes in and belts it out. They save that minor dissonant thing. It's almost like the figurative first-person view of the song. If you were to just refer to it that way, it's kind of ruminating on something, and this is like the epiphany. It's kind of how it comes to me musically. And then we switched into some very strange chords here. The bass isn't mixed as loud as it is on some other albums. I kind of hear it, but hopefully it gets a little bit further up in the mix as we go. Let's go back to about here. Yeah. They save that major chord, which normally bands do it in reverse. They put that minor chord, the darker one, on the impact. I like that. Okay. G minor? Okay, back to it. Almost sounded like that section just went up a fourth. We've been a lot of interesting move, colorful. Slide there on the bass. Yeah, every second time it comes after that D major, that's when that drum part changes. That's such a subtle thing. Let me compare that just for a second, because am I dreaming? Is that changing? It is. Dun, dun, got, dun, dun. It's got a bit more of a groove. Then we have that D major chord. They do this. Now the drum group's different. That's a cool rhythmic thing. It's so simple, but instead of that kind of more syncopated, playing with the upbeats a bit more, this is just straight. I'm very curious why that decision was made. It doesn't really matter, but I like it. It's so subtle, I almost didn't catch it. Using some 9 chords there. It almost is basically the same thing as that intro chord. They're playing with the half steps on the top notes of the chord. Kind of tough to do on bass. I'm going to do my best, but you have this sort of G minor 9 here. So 1, 5, 9, G, D, A. 2 fifths on top of each other. Then you add that B flat, which rubs with the A. So the top part of the chord is just like the intro. You're getting this. Just dissonant, right? It's a minor second. But when you put some context under it, you get those really beautiful minor 9s. I think he's just walking that up to a B. Bit tough for me to play, but beautiful theme in the chords. Those minor 9s, utilizing a lot of half-step dissonance on the top end. It just makes for a really eerie and shimmery type of guitar part. Love it. Just a cool, unexpected vocal move there. You hear how the layers on the vocals, they just went apart by a half step. And to me, that's a way to latch on to this theme established in the chords. Just a lot of those half step things, just kind of leaning into it, adding a bit more tension. And again, Rex is just really slow burning this bass line. Just adds one or two notes every time something repeats. And I love the way they're planing these. Again, I use the word planing. We talked about that in some recent videos. Just taking a chord and moving it somewhere else, regardless if it goes out of key or not. It's called chromatic planing. Those two minor chords back to back is just has a really jarring sound, right? They put an E in there as well. Pretty cool. This vocal thing right here, though. Extinguishing the sun. Resolves on that major, okay? Damn. It's like a car revving up, a motorcycle or something. The heavier sides of their music just always gave me that vibe. It had a lot to do with the way Vinny's drums were mixed and produced. I think Terry Date was a big part of that. And just that roaring of Dime's guitar. I mean, just the tones they had were so unique. That really slapstick type of production was just really just squashed, but in a good way that made that punchiness come through. You just feel the dynamics it brings as this revs up. Wow, it's just so dark. That's just a Pantera sound I'm not super used to. You know, there's traces of it on those earlier albums that I was into. It just hits differently now. Now that I'm really going back and giving it a chance, it's okay. Can't even hear what notes they are. Now I hear bass. It almost makes me wonder if he was just purposely playing a bit more dynamically and soft. Because this whole first half of the song really called for that. And you could just turn a volume knob down and mixing, sure. But, the player is still going to respond to the music. So I really hear a bit more grit on it now. It's cutting through a bit. Of course, there's no rhythm track. Sounds like we're setting up for a Dime solo here. Let's go into that again. Oh, he's going. Little half-step diminished thing there. Okay, this is classic Rex. The way he played under Dime's solos was probably his biggest influence on me as a bass player. I mean, we all know Dimebag's solos were amazing in their own right, stand alone, but when they translate within Pantera's music, what Rex did under them was truly the secret sauce that made them shine the way they did. I feel that way about every great Dime solo, and this is just par for the course. And this makes a lot more sense in how he approached it now. If he, came from a tuba background, jazz bass background, it's understood in jazz and such, because I came from a jazz background as well, and we were always taught to support the soloist melodically with chords, a million different ways to do it as a bass player. But in rock music, if you just started out playing rock and metal music, the common thing you're told is to get out of the way when someone's soloing, like as a respect thing. But truly what you should do and what you can do and what can coexist with getting out of the way is still playing something that elevates the solo, that just pushes it up one notch higher in terms of greatness than it already might be. And I think that's what he adds here. And musically, the way he does it is I feel like he takes little licks from Dime's solo and puts them in the bass lines, but maybe waters them down a touch to where it doesn't sound like he's in unison, but it just sounds like a support. Sounds like a musical support. And if you go back, I'm going to go back to when the solo starts, just listen to some of the licks he plays and how in tandem with Dime's licks, they almost sound a bit in unison. I think that's a very intentional way to just augment the solo when there's no rhythm track. I mean, it's a perfect way to glue together the composition, glue together the drums with the guitar solo, be that glue, Great. Let's go back to about right here. You can hear the bass kind of doing it down there, but instead of holding those long notes out, just strumming through them, it's a cool iteration of the licks in the solo. That B flat. God, that harmonized lick is sexy as hell. And what's cool is that when Dime just puts it in overdrive, pun intended in the sense that he's just starting to rip, you hear Rex keeping those themes that they were playing more together from the last repeat. He kind of keeps them going. It gives them context. It shows that the solo is being built on something melodic and not just shredding a bunch of random licks. There's like a reason for it. There's a reason for those melodic themes and such. So I think there's a lot of nuanced method to the madness here musically. And I've always thought that about their music. It's just some brilliant stuff, the way they work together. Perfect. Yeah, he even jumped up there, changed octaves, just to kind of follow it. The solo goes up here. They kind of ride like this. It's just brilliant. You got to just really sit here and appreciate it. But I just can't help but point out its excellence. Love this little part right here. Let's go back. All that good stuff. All right. Out of any band, the spectrum they have from just being brutally heavy musically and just so beautiful in the same sentence. I mean, they were a huge part of the reason I got into heavy music. Despite saying this was too heavy for me, they at least pulled me halfway there, and it took some other bands and some time to really pull me in. But I just remember the first song I ever heard, Cowboys from Hell, I immediately thought this sounds like Welcome to the Jungle musically. It had a bit more, swagger, rock and roll, but the vocals were heavier. It was just bridging me into that. This is around the time I got into the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, and such. So just hearing that kind of duality really explored, like really beautiful stuff in this song, really heavy stuff right here where we are. I mean, they're kings at that. They were. All this stuff. Not sure what note that is. And just to really milk this thing I've been talking about, the theme across this song, especially within the guitar parts, has been half steps. Whether it's been in the same riff, like 0-1-0, kind of like the writing on here, E and F, that's also been present in all of the chords. Now, we were talking about that in minor. You go to this riff here, and it's... So I don't know if that's a conscious thing, but it's just been present all across the board musically. Really like that. The aftermath of the flood. It's just sort of the soundtrack. Like, is that being illustrated here? Dig it. Some delay. I think the way that song ended said a lot musically with the theme of the lyrics, floods, washing away and such. I like how it was the same thing as the intro, but it had some major chords in it, almost like it resolved, almost like we're at peace again. The flood has happened, if you will, because the beginning of the song really started off with just kind of unresolved and eerie, and this was the same thing at the end, but they had that. So it was a bit more, it just sounded like a resolve to me. Anyway, wow. I mean, that was a very cinematic song. Really, really amazing restraint for knowing how energetic and how powerful they can get. Yeah, it's still dark. It's still eerie. It's not my favorite Pantera sound. I think it's hard to just change that at this age based on the way I got into them, but I certainly appreciate how their style evolved. And again, I just think a lot of the things happening with the band interpersonally, it was really bleeding through in the music as it does. But love the entire way the solo was sort of the climax of that song, and the way Rex built the bass line and built that foundation with the beginning of the guitar solo. And then when Dime just took off, he just kept it down there, kept that really good melodic goodness thing happening with those little melodies. And he even went up and, like, again, just a really cool, you could just tell these guys had such a chemistry, just an intuition with the way their music flowed between them. I just really appreciate this band. So happy to finally do an episode highlighting why I think Rex Brown is an amazing bass player, and he never did anything extremely showy, but it was what's under the hood that made their music so special, and I really gleaned a lot from that growing up on their music. But thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us over on Patreon. I do full albums over there once a month. I have bass lessons, music theory lessons, just lots of stuff. a really great community. I would love for you to come hang out with us. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I love you all. We'll see you in the next one.